Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we exit the final international break of 2025 and enter a period of 11 FPL deadlines in just 45 days. Chaos incoming. My name is Fergi, and I'm joined today, as usual, by my co-host, the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 11?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm good. Very well. And it seems like a long time ago that we had Game Week 11. I had to go back and look at the slide this morning to see what I actually scored in that week. Yeah, it's been a long international break with a lot of twists and turns. However, to answer your question, I got another green arrow. Not a spectacular green arrow. Felt like a bit of a meh game week in Game Week 11. You know, everybody did not very well. Everyone was around the 40-point mark, but I think just having Saka finally getting a haul was enough to get me a decent green. So 100k rise to around the 300k mark. Very happy with that at this stage.
Superb, mate. Well played. Yeah, it feels like ages ago. I think his Game Week 11 was a bit of a damp squib in terms of, you know, the advice was want to save your transfer. It feels we haven't done anything for like 3 or 4 weeks in FPL, right. and it's very, very template at the moment. But this period now is where I think the season it kind of sets the tone, really, doesn't it, for how you're going to finish the season. This 11 game weeks in 40 days is, you know, it's absolutely crazy. And how we cope in this period with so much going on, which we'll talk about now, is going to really, you know, set the tone for the second half of the season, whether you're on the front foot, whether you're on the back foot, whether you set your team up well, whether, you know, you're going to have to use your chips, if you save your free hit pack for later on for Game Week 17-8 or whatever else. It's just a crazy period. So we'll try and unravel it a little bit, you know, in the next hour or so. But we should mention first, Rich, just before we move on, about the home internationals. I mean, what a week for every team. Do you want to just give us a bit of a lowdown, Rich? Because I know you're really up on it.
I have, you know, I'm not, most FPL engaged managers aren't that great a fan of international breaks, but you have to say this was an outstanding set of games to watch in terms of the performance of our home international teams. You know, starting with England, probably the lowest key result, but 100% record, no goals conceded, 8 wins out of 8, absolutely cruised through to the World Cup finals. But we'll move on from there rapidly, because really I think the two outstanding performances were the Republic of Ireland coming back from 2-1 down against Hungary and breaking the mocking Dominic Szoboszlai's heart with Troy Parrott scoring a hat-trick and winning the game in the 96th minute for unbelievable scenes. I mean, there's this new phrase on social media, limbs.
Yeah, limbs.
You keep saying limbs. You know, there were limbs in the Ireland game, and there were certainly limbs in the Scotland game, which I watched. You were probably watching the Welsh match, which was 7-1 to Wales. But the Scotland-Denmark game was, for the neutral, was a great match. So congratulations to Scotland. Your other podcast co-host, Paul McAnulty, I think, was at the game, was he? And he must have had a life-changing experience.
Amazing stuff. Yeah. And Northern Ireland as well. So, you know,
in the playoffs
exactly.
as well.
So every home nation is either through or has got, you know, a kind of chance of getting through. So awesome stuff. Well played, everyone. Good stuff. Apologies in advance if there's any poor tech quality this morning. Our producer Scott is inexplicably on holiday. I mean, all these holidays, mate. Jeez. And I've got to run it this week, kind of old school, on far inferior setup and internet, but hopefully it's passable. Kids are in school. It's a quiet day. So I'm fairly hopeful that the tech will run okay. Scott will be back pulling the strings next week. Yeah, I had to look back as well, Rich, for my own team. I got a green arrow, saved a transfer, 45 points. Very meh. You know, the Semenyo penalty. Enzo had 2 shots on target in the first 3 minutes and still ended up with a blank. You know, a Dubravka blank, a Palace attacking blank. I had the Mbeumo goal, which is probably the only bright spot really in my team, kind of outside of the template. Saka, 12 points, probably gave me the green arrow, but up to 2.2 million, which is, you know, is nothing to get excited about. But I've had back-to-back greens since the wildcard, 2 free transfers, pretty well set, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting period now, particularly with the news of Gabriel, who looks like hasn't been confirmed at all, but it looks like he might be out for quite a while, possibly into the new year. So I suppose firstly, Rich, just on the Gabriel thing, obviously that is huge in terms of, you know, his ownership. His performances this season have been absolutely incredible, both in defence and in attack. I suppose with Arsenal's fixtures turning is the first thing, because they do get a bit tougher from this weekend onwards, and also the fact that Gabriel will be missing from that defence as well. How do you view kind of Arsenal assets moving forward? Because we've got a lot of people have got decisions to make. Do you move to another Arsenal player? Do you move to another defender, an Arsenal attacker? Do you go to, you know, a cheaper defender? What's your kind of really, really initial thoughts on how Gabriel will affect Arsenal?
Yeah, I think they'll still be the best defence with whoever they bring in to replace Gabriel. They probably won't be at the kind of less than 0.5 XGC level for the upcoming period. Certainly when they're playing the North London derby next and then Chelsea next weekend, I would imagine it's not going to be as scary not having double Arsenal defence as it was before. But I think there is an opportunity perhaps to move away from double Arsenal defensive cover, and you can take it on with a player from another team, of which there are many options and ways to go, and we'll cover that. We'll cover that shortly. But I've been running without double Arsenal defence for the whole period. I've only ever had one, which was got on Gabriel reasonably early, and I've had some rises out of him, but I've never had double Arsenal defence, and some of my other defenders have been covering that. I may have been lucky, you know, with Sanchez getting 3 clean sheets in 4, Anderson chipping in with a clean sheet here and there, Munoz coming in with stuff, but I've kind of gotten away with it a little bit with not owning double Arsenal defence. But now going down to 0 Arsenal defence with Gabriel being out, that does feel like I'm a little bit more exposed. So if you are on double at the moment and you've got a Raya in goal or you've got Timber already, then it probably doesn't feel too bad at the moment for you.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think in terms of the attack, of how it's going to impact that? Because, you know, he's just so aggressive in the box off set pieces. I know they'll have more there. Do you think it makes sort of, you know, Saka a better option, worse option? Does it really impact any of the other players? Or
I think the immediate thought was that I was, like many, probably considering captaining Saka this weekend, and he often combines with Gabriel for goals from corners and stuff. It's one of his routes to points, and it just tarnishes that a little bit, that captaincy pick on Saka, because it's a risk going against Haaland anyway with his form and stuff. So it's probably just knocked that down the road a little bit for me. I think Saka will be fine. I think we do have Madueke coming back, I think, which might impact his minutes, particularly in that rotation week coming up. But I think Arsenal's attack will be fine. I still think they'll be an elite team going forward, and they'll weather the storm. But let's wait and see if Arteta gives us any breadcrumbs tomorrow, shall we, and see what he says about his return. Probably absolutely nothing, and we'll be more confused after the presses than before, I should imagine.
Absolutely. Just before we look at the rest of the flags, of which there are many, let's just say hello to the chat. Great to have you all with us. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday morning. I don't think we've ever podded so early, Rich, but we are off to the FCAs this evening, where Fantasy Football Hub have been nominated as a finalist for Best Fantasy Organisation. So we won it last year, actually. So hopefully, good luck, mate. Hopefully we can do it again. But FPL Freddy is in the chat. Ian McLaughlin, the Goons TA1. Keith Ledger is in, as always. Michael Taylor says, finally something good to listen to while decorating. There's only so much Talk Sport I can listen to in a day. I do like Talk Sport, but I know what you mean. It's like, you know, you get that, it can get a bit repetitive. King Jacko is in. Kermit, Mr. Hogmeister. Who is this? Is this your friend?
Yes,
Rich?
it's a nice story, actually. Ian Wallace is Mr. Hogmeister, and he, you know him from your Telegraph days, don't you? And he, I've got, you know, if you don't think I'm really Gary Anderson in disguise, then, you know, I've got quite a generic name, Richard Clarke. There's a lot of Richard Clarkes out there. And Ian got in touch via the Hub's customer support channel and said that, you know, him and I used to be mates over 30 years ago, and we managed to meet up and have some dinner last night. So good shout out. Good to see you again, Ian. And he's a good player. He knows all the sources of information. He's an incredibly engaged manager, plays multiple formats. So it was nice to talk some FPL last night to you.
I do remember FPL Hogmeister from the FISO forums years ago. Good Telegraph player, I think, and Telegraph FPL chat and stuff. So yeah, great Great to see you there, Ian. L Chivers is in. Asks Gabriel to Van Dijk from -4 or wait a week. We will move on to Gabriel stuff in a sec. Hector Rodriguez is in. Stephen Whale says, great to catch you on a live stream. Great to catch you too, Stephen. Good stuff. Manchester, nice surprise on day off. Alpha is in. First time catching us live as well. Alan Sared, Sokan, and Russell Skidmore says, Budapest Blades rocking. Great to have you all with us. Pop in and say hello. Let's have a look at these flags, Rich. I mean, goodness me, we sometimes pop up a flag FC, but this is an actual team, which I saw. You can. We normally mock up one, right? We normally mock up a team, but this one is crazy. Yeah. So he's got Gehi, Caliafori, Gabriel, and Byrne is 4 of his back 5. Neto, this should be a violin moment, really incredible. Neto, really. Semenyo, Enzo, and Paqueta, and then Gyökeres and Sesko. You couldn't make it up. He's only got 5 fit players.
Did you check whether he's got a free hit or a wild card left? I
didn't, but shout out. I think it's someone like FPL Ida or Elder on X. But thanks for posting this on the Hub channel. Absolutely crazy. But there are a lot of highly owned players here, Rich, and what a crazy international break we've had. What are your thoughts on the managing through injury? I don't mean the specific team, wildcard or free hit, and you should be okay. But,
I mean, my thoughts are that there's very few people out there who, even the Harrys and the Ben Crellins of this world, won't have skated through this.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, there's everyone's going to be impacted, and the thing I'm noticing amongst the community is people don't want to wait for the press conferences. They want answers now. They want us to tell them, what they should do, because they are
wait to the press conferences.
SpongeBob SquarePants meme where he's panicking on his office chair. Just basically, we got to wait. We've got to wait and see how many of these flags clear up tomorrow. I mean, I think the obvious one that most people own is Semenyo, who was left out of international duty, but then there were pictures of him proposing to his girlfriend.
It was for personal reasons, apparently. It's been confirmed. He's
down
left
on knee.
Exactly.
I believe she said yes, because they seem very happy, and so he's probably going to be okay, right? So I don't think selling Semenyo doesn't make much sense, but the Gabriel one looks genuine, and then there's some marginal ones, like you've got Enzo. A lot of people got Enzo. He might not play because Chelsea have got some very tough fixtures coming up. They've got Barcelona in the week, and then the Arsenal games. Arguable, you'd want to save him for those two rather than risk him against Burnley, wouldn't you think? Probably. I mean, that's just a managerial decision, perhaps, to bench him for that one. And then Gueye, he looks like he's on the way back after missing the international break completely. So I think if you are unfortunate owner of Flag FC, this will look a lot better tomorrow night than it will tonight. That's just my 50,000 foot view of it, but it has been a crazy week, and people who made early transfers to save 0.1 million, probably,
never
teaches you a lesson.
I can never understand it. The only time I would ever make an early transfer personally is if I was going to be priced out. When you've got the exact money either way, and I get that. Otherwise, just hang on. I mean, that's it's personal view, but I suppose the advice from us straight away: just hold on to the press conferences, because you could be playing. I mean, Semenyo home to West Ham is like as good as fixtures it gets, right? As well, he could just walk up and haul.
And that one really smacks of João Pedro-itis, doesn't it? I mean, when we were all selling João Pedro the other week to get Mateta and whatnot, and then he goes and scores in successive games. You sell Semenyo. Lots of people selling Semenyo to get Mbeumo, let's say, and you're thinking, oh great, I've got double United, and then Semenyo bags in a hat-trick against West Ham.
And United lose 1-0 at home to Everton.
Absolutely gutted, exactly.
And Semenyo's fixed in particular, I would say. I've held on to him purposely because his next run of 3 or 4 fixtures are really, really good. It's not just the one game he's got. I think it's Sunderland, Leeds, or Burnley or something as well. So he's got some really nice fixtures to come up. But
and you've got about 1.1 million tied up in him as well.
Yeah,
you bought him at 7 mil,
so
right at the beginning.
But just hold on. I think it's fair to say from here that Gabriel is probably out from what we know, but it's still worth hanging on. Maybe Paqueta's definitely out because he's banned. Gyökeres probably may not play, but Spurs anyway, so it's not the end of the world. The rest of them, I just hold on to press conferences. The deadline is not till 11:30 on Saturday mornings. You can wait up till 10:30, 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Get as much information as possible, make a good move. The last thing you want to do now is earn a transfer, make a -4, and then your players, they're absolutely fine. But Let's have a look forward then,
Agreed.
Rich. Lie of the land. We are going to look at fixture crush now, which kind of brings this to life a little bit. But Liverpool's fixtures all of a sudden turn, and we will be looking at some of their assets. The Mo Salah thing comes back now after me saying and get a lot of stick for saying 2 or 3 weeks ago Salah won't be in any of our teams anymore. All of a sudden this fixture run, it looks good. We'll have nothing to go off with him really. I know he's maybe looked a bit better, but I don't know, interesting. But they're home to Forest, away to West Ham, home to Sunderland, away to Leeds before he goes off to AFCON, which is a hell of a run of fixtures, probably about as good as it gets. You then got United, home to Everton, which I think is a tough fixture. Away to Palace is tough as well. I don't think the United fixtures are as good as they look until they go home to West Ham in 14, away to Wolves in 15. Then they get good. And Bournemouth have been shipped a few goals recently, so they're home to 16 then as well. But personally, United, a bit of a wait for me, maybe. Maybe go Bruno or Mbeumo, but I've seen people, you got double up, triple up.
Yeah, people doubling up.
I'm a massive fan of that with the other options available. Newcastle's fixtures improve as well. Bournemouth, as I just mentioned, home to West Ham, away to Sunderland, home to Everton, but they've got 3 or 4 of the next home, so hopefully they can turn it around. Fulham's fixtures are pretty good. There's not really any to kind of look from there. And Man City are interesting because they're away to Newcastle this week, then they're home to Leeds. Then they're away to Fulham. Then they're home to Sunderland. They've got a run of 4 excellent fixtures as well. I'm sure we'll be talking about potential free hit options there because there's not many, managers have got more than Haaland maybe, but there are opposite. I thought Doku was absolutely electric against Liverpool, mate. I haven't seen a performance like that for a long time.
I know. I'm interested in Doku. We'll talk about him some more later. But yeah, they do turn. You've summarised it pretty well there. I mean, the ones to see. Obviously, Liverpool, amazing fixtures. There's lots of negative content this week about Liverpool's defence, in terms of, they're statistically, they haven't been good this season. They've leaked a lot of goals. Are they suddenly going to turn around and start keeping loads of clean sheets? Probably not, but there probably will be an upturn just caused by the fixtures. They'll get a few clean sheets. They won't be top of the league, but if they get, a 40% improvement in their clean sheet rate, that's good. Players like Van Dijk, etc., got good for DEFCONs anyway, despite the poor defensive performances. They make sense to invest in as a team. They're the champions of and they're still in the race. They're still up the top of the table. They've had 6 wins. They're not out of it. And I do think that there'll be plenty of Liverpool fans, I'm sure, on the pod, and I think they're gonna be right up there come Christmas, given these fixtures. United and City, it's a real pivotal time. I think if you've got heavy hitting chips to play, then you certainly want to consider playing them and bringing them into your thoughts in the next 2 or 3 weeks. The inverse of that is that what this fixture chart doesn't show is the time gap between the games coming up, and I think the next chart will show that, and we're into a huge period where we're going to see a lot of rotation, particularly for the teams with the bigger squads, and therefore it's just a bit tricky to navigate through that period, particularly if you aren't using your chips or you've used them all up. So I don't want to jump into it straight away, but if you look at one thing that stood out to me, and I've got to get this out there because it's just a joke. If you come down about halfway and look at a Crystal Palace, who are a small squad who don't rotate very much at all, they have got 14 games between this weekend and the 7th of January.
That is mental. That is absolutely crazy.
14
and they're playing 4 games in 8. Is it 8 days or something? That middle block of Man City to Arsenal.
Yeah. They never get a break. Almost everybody else gets a break. Even Arsenal get a break one week. Look, but yeah, Palace don't get a break at all between now and the 7th of January. And if we think we can just cruise through with 3 Palace assets, they're going to come through unscathed from that. That's crazy. So they're going to have to rest players. They're going to have to rotate. But if you look at all the big teams, all the top 6, all the teams in Europe, they are going through a massive fixture cross, particularly in the next couple of weeks. The peak of it, I think, will be between game week 13 and game week 15, because we have a complete set of midweek Premier League fixtures, 3 deadlines in a week to contend with. So we'll be doing a lot of pods, or we'll be doubling up on a pod in a couple of weeks' time, Fergie. It'll be a
Absolutely.
very busy time for us at the hub. And yeah, that game week 14 looks like rotation city, doesn't it?
It does indeed. It does.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's mad. I mean, it's brilliant. It's going to be super exciting. But then you also throw in addition to the congestion. Sorry, this graphic is courtesy of a Lego Mane FPL on X. Make sure you give him a follow. But we've got the added complexity this year of having the fight from an FPL view now. If we just, in terms of just looking at it from the two lenses, we've got the pure fixture crush lens. But we've got the 5 free transfers which come in game week 16, and then a lot of very good and highly owned players that both I think directly impact teams. People like Salah, etc. And Jai, who are kind of the superstars for their teams. But I think there's also a lot of players leaving that will indirectly sort of influence teams as well. Like Sunderland. I don't know if you know, Rich, how many Sunderland players are potentially going up to AFCON.
Is it something like 7?
It's 9.
Is it 7?
They've got to 9 players going. So all of a sudden, the Sunderland players, the Mukiele, the Roafs, and players like who have performed really well all season, their squad is going to be decimated over Christmas.
Right.
And there's other instances like that. Spurs, Pape Sarr is probably an example. Where it indirectly gives other players opportunities, maybe. But also then potentially negatively impacts teams as well, and it's quite a lot. The one which did surprise me, and I think this is right, Chelsea are the only team that haven't got any players going off to AFCON, which is, if you think over the years, their representation of African players.
Arguably got the biggest
They got
squad
the biggest squad, and they've got years, like the Drogba and kind of all these players who are always going off to AFCON. They haven't got one player going off to AFCON, which is crazy. If I've got that wrong, apologies, but we had a look earlier this week. But yeah, it's going to massively impact teams in lots of positive and negative ways, I think, and also give other players opportunities. I think that's the thing as well. Players you wouldn't normally look at. I know that Frimpong is injured, right? But he was one where it was when Salah goes off, Frimpong's going to sit on the right hand side. I think he's injured, but it's going to be interesting to see how they reimagine their team over those fixtures, because they've got some. I mean, Liverpool in game week 18 and 19, they got back-to-back games home to Wolves and home to Leeds. So it'd be interesting to see who fits in on that right-hand side. Will Wirtz go on the right, and all of a sudden, Wirtz becomes a real option, or maybe Isak, or Ekitike goes out there, and all of a sudden these players who are on the fringe is not really in our thoughts at the moment. So it's it's super interesting. I suppose, Rich, in terms of your FPL. Your great FPL mind over this period. I'm guessing you've given it a lot of thought already. What are the kind of 2 or 3 things you're thinking
I haven't
about?
really, but I do like. I kind of think there is. If you're an engaged manager and you are a planner, it's a period where your efforts can be rewarded by looking at groups of fixtures, making sure your team is predominantly made up of nailed players who are going to play 90 minutes and going to play week in, week out without the fear of rotation. So your Bruno Fernandes, your Virgil van Dijks, people that you just know you can count on to play every week. They are good transfers to be making at the moment ahead of this period, because you want to know that your players are going to play. Taking a risk with a player, I don't know, let's say someone like a Jeremy Doku or somebody like that who's on form, looking really attractive, nice shiny toy. Do you honestly think he's going to start every game through that period for Man City? He's not. You're just going to have a strong bench player who's going to come in, or you're risking a 1-point cameo. So it's a time for being sensible and not being too clever, if that makes sense. You want to just make sure you go back to basics and play fixtures, play form to an extent, but make sure you've got a good squad of nailed players. Really basic stuff.
And the bench as well, because we all, the kind of cliche is always make sure you got a fully playing bench. And I've got, just for example, I've got Mark Gui purposely there, just kind of they're sucking up a kind of spot at 4.2, so I can place the money elsewhere. I think there's 2 trains of thought with the benches. Is I like to make as least decisions as I possibly can on a week. And when you have got a fully playing bench, I find it quite quite sort of stressful sometimes, choosing your best 11 out of some really good players, particularly this year as the 4 million defenders are all doing well, like kind of Rodons, Mukielis, and Estevs. I saw Estev went down to 2.9 million this week. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've got him.
But Burnley, are going to have some good fixtures at some point. I think it confuses things. Like they're home to Everton in game week 18, and then you've got, I don't know, maybe like a player that week. Say you've got like a Palace player, Salah. They've got Spurs or some. You think, do I play this? And I just think it can create like an analysis paralysis almost. But then obviously on the flip side, if you do get a lot of injuries, then you've got players coming off the bench as well. But I think the difference this year is there's still free hit. There's still players like yourself who've got wild cards. If you find yourself in a bit of a mess, it'll be interesting.
Wild card,
yeah, because it'll be interesting because we'll talk about your wild card now. Because I do wonder whether holding it now for this period, because your team is template as good as anyone else's, as good as as everyone else's. Whether you think, do you know what, there is going to be chaos somewhere in this period, and when all of a sudden I've got 6 flags and 4 out of form players in a month's time, you can just go,
you're looking at a -12 and you just bosh it on the
exactly
table.
That, and you can just wild card yourself into a really strong position.
Yeah,
so.
It is on my mind. However, the upside of playing it in the next couple of weeks is also a possibility. It just means being a bit more, just taking it on, because it can backfire, and we've seen our own wild cards backfire in the past, haven't we? We've played them based on a lovely period of fixtures, looking great, and the players we've just sold are still banging, and therefore the template outscores the wild card. So, yeah, I'm not as decided as I should be. I feel like I'm a bit undercooked with my preparation. So in those situations, it's probably best to do nothing and hold it. So. I think if you've got a wild card, then holding it all the way up to Christmas and just giving yourself a Christmas present and prepping for the January fixtures might not be a bad idea.
Mate, if you
I might free hit with the herd next week. I think there'll be a lot of people will free hit next week because they're underdone on City. Obviously, there's that Thiago fixture against Brent. No, he plays for Brentford, doesn't he? Burnley next week. Burnley at home for Brentford, and they've been great at home this season. So if you're free hitting and around him, he's got poor fixtures, but that Burnley fixture sticks out, and you can just free hit him, and then he's gone again. You don't need him for another 4 or 5 weeks. So I am looking at the free hit, I think, along with a lot of people next week.
Yeah, final couple of questions. It looks like free hit 30. I was going to ask about that. When is the best sort of free hit option? It looks like 13, and it's more of an upside play than a kind of like. Normally we use the free hit either on a double game week or on a blank game week where you can get 11 out or maximize. But it looks like maybe this is the best one just because all the bigger teams are playing each other.
Yeah.
The other I suppose the other big strategic question I've got, and it's probably only applicable mainly to people like yourself who have got the wild card left, is Mo Salah, who I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't think he's going to be a necessity in our teams in FPL anymore. I received a lot of criticism for that. I stand by it still, even though there is a period. Well, no, he'd be at AFCON. And notoriously, he comes back from AFCON and he's nowhere near as good as he is in the second half season as in the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. This is probably the final period now. These 4 games or 5 games, home to Forest, away to West Ham, home to Sunderland, away to Leeds, home to Brighton. Has got Champions League games in there as well. He has been rested, I think, in the last 2 Champions League games, which again is not like him at all. Which is just showing that they're trying to protect him a little bit, or maybe he's tiring a little bit more than they used to, or I don't think form is everything with him still. This period feels like the period for wildcarders, maybe, particularly with the Gabriel injury, and this for me interlinks nicely, because I think if Gabriel wasn't injured, I still think we see a lot of people on kind of Gabriel, Timber, Munoz. A lot of players have got Saka now as well. Because Gabriel is injured, you can maybe afford to go down to a cheaper defender, like a 4.5 like a Michael Keane, or even a 4.1. And got the money up to do Salah. It feels like it's an option now. What are your thoughts on Salah? Are you contemplating wildcard now and just going for it? Because Salah's ownership against engaged managers is nil, right?
Yeah, it's an option, but it's not like last season. It just doesn't feel scary not owning him, does it? it hasn't felt scary not owning him for weeks. He's
I
doing
think so.
bits, but he's not
I can see him
doing
scoring like like
enough.
an
Yeah,
odd
I mean, if he
goal.
scores it, it doesn't really hurt you because the
No.
26% who own him are all the ghost ships, the people that have given up
Yeah.
already. If you look at his ownership in the top million, it's much lower, and therefore, yes, he will shoot you up if he does exceptionally well, but that money. You can still spread that money amongst Saka, Fernandez, and Buemo for these games, and have those three players. And Salah's got to absolutely smash it and outscore those three combined to really warrant the spread of those funds. And I just think that you'll find that there might be one or two. I think it's a good risk if you are languishing in the rankings and you want to jump up and you're going to just put a bet on Salah to come
Yeah.
good. And you're going to captain him against Haaland, because if you go in, you've got to captain him in 2 out of the
Yeah. I
next
agree
3. I
with that.
think
Yeah.
you have to really go almost like all in
I
on
think
him.
so.
If that
I
makes
think so.
sense.
Yeah.
And I think Gian, who's offered a guest on the show, he did that last week. He's way down the rank. He's having a wretched season, but I understand the logic in what he's doing. He sold Haaland, he bought Salah, and he captained him. I mean, that's
Yeah.
brave, right? It's really brave.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the hub uses 100 top managers as part of the analysis into elite ownership.
Yeah.
Have a guess what percent of those 100 managers have currently got Salah in their team.
Between 5 and 10%.
Or 4%. So when you
Yeah,
say about
wow.
scary, he's absolutely not, and I can't see that increasing past more than, as you say, maybe up to 5 or 10. But that's a big factor. And the captaincy, as you say, right? Even though Haaland has got a difficult fixture, maybe away to Newcastle, you're definitely captain Haaland in game week 13 at home to Leeds. You definitely captain him in game week 15 at home to Sunderland. So yeah, it doesn't really feel like an option. Interesting. Just on actually, let's move on, because we'll talk about the cheaper mids now. But firstly, we want to talk about Gabriel replacements, Rich, because you've got a few lined up here. It looks like Gabriel, from what we can see, you've got some really respectable journalist, David Ornstein, saying it looks like he might be out for a month or two. It looks like he's going to miss the majority of this fixture crush. But on earlier, 6.5 million. He is at the moment. He's going to release a fair bit of money for anyone really. What are your thoughts?
Is he 6'5", 6'6"?
Oh, sorry, my
didn't go down, did he, last night? I missed that.
My selling value was 6'5". Apologies.
Okay,
6'6",
right.
yeah. But best replacements, mate. What are your thoughts?
Oh well, I mean, it's dominated the content this week. We're not original here. We're talking about this, but yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go with this. The template, the safest move is to back up what we just said about having safe 90-minute men with good fixtures. So Virgil van Dijk, I think, is the safe move. You're still banking £500,000 to spend elsewhere. Virgil's going to play every game. Outstanding fixtures, DEFCON's attacking threat. To me, the decision's made. However, if you are pessimistic about Liverpool's defensive performances and statistics, you can go elsewhere. Particularly getting a replacement Arsenal defender is not a bad move either.
Yep.
William Saliba will be coming back into teams, although that feels very dull as a sideways move. I'd probably go Timber if I didn't own him. Do you have Timber?
I do, yeah.
You do, yeah. I mean, what do you think of Timber versus Virgil? I think that's really the main discussion over the replacements.
I think that I would now go Virgil. I think a few weeks ago, Timbers, he was looking incredibly attacking. He still is looking attacking in all fairness. I'm just a fixture player, Rich, and I say it every year, and I think it'll be the same for Liverpool as well. Maybe not so much for Salah specifically, but Liverpool will turn a corner very soon. Man City battered them last time out. I couldn't believe the amount of space that Liverpool gave the Man City attackers. I don't know what happened there. It's very rare you see a game like that where every time City went forward. Normally, when you watch City, they play against these low blocks, right? So you just see them passing side to side. They can't get through the lines. Liverpool are just like rolling out the red carpet for them. Like, there you are, Phil. There you are, Jeremy, and whoever else. Just run at us, all of you. It was crazy. But
Mm.
obviously Liverpool are such a good team that there's going to be a lot of other teams that are not going to be able to exploit it the way that Man City can. So,
Yeah.
um, I think Van Dijk, and obviously Van Dijk was incredibly unfortunate with his header, which he scored, which he's always capable of doing, right, as well. So I think for
Yeah.
these fixtures, they're so good that I would be going. And Arsenal's more difficult now. I can see Arsenal conceding in 2 or 3 of the next 4 personally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, those are the two I would say that are the safest moves for similar bracket options. I think if you want to do something else, and let's bear in mind that a lot of people listening and going through the international break have got 2+ transfers. It was sensible to roll one last week, and there's people with the option to upgrade in midfield. So if you come down a bit, you can do more with the money.
Absolutely.
And we need to recognize that. So some of the other options for people who maybe want to get a heavy hitting mid in, you could come all the way down and get in someone like Matthias de Ligt in. United are turning the corner. They've got I think 3 wins in 4. They have great fixtures coming up, even beyond the AFCON break when they'll lose a couple of players. But de Ligt looks like the one to have from the United defence. If you want to go for a City defender, then Nico O'Reilly has started 7 out of the last 8 games. Chances are he will get a rest. Aït-Nouri is back and available, I think, for selection. However, Aït-Nouri goes to AFCON in game week 17. So if you wanted to punt on O'Reilly now or next week, then I think he's a really good shout. And I think if I was wildcarding next week or free hitting next week, I think O'Reilly would make the team, certainly for game week 13. He's 5 million, very attacking, played for England during the international break. And I think he's a really good shout. And he'll certainly have the shirt when Aït-Nouri goes to AFCON. So I like O'Reilly. And then if you're going to go for a Palace asset, if you haven't already got your Palace defender in, then because it's an easy come down, then Daniel Munoz, I think, is the standout, particularly with the fixtures that Palace have got in the next 4 coming up. I bought Munoz ages ago, and he's been great. He's not going anywhere in my team.
So dangerous, and he's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd go Munoz over Richards. I think Richards are good for wild card to save some money and stuff like that and shuffle the money around. But I think right now Munoz has got the nod over him for attacking threat. So yeah, I mean, some great options there. There probably are some other ones. You come all the way down to a 4.0 or a 3.9 if you really want to stretch up and make a big upgrade. I mean, I've got a Reinders size hole in my team that I need to fix, and clearly the more money you've got in the bank after the Gabriel sale, the more you can do with it in midfield. So that's what our next graphic is talking about, is where you're going to go with that extra cash.
Well, just quickly on defenders, I think there's maybe a couple of other teams or players to to keep an eye on. I think Bournemouth have had a rough few weeks, but their fixtures have been incredibly tough as well. But I do like Truffert, the fullback for Bournemouth, has been very attacking all season. He's been he's been good. Senesi obviously has been great for DEFCONs. I think he's a good option moving forward. I think Truffert is like 4.5, 4.6. Senesi a little bit more of 5 million, but I think they are options as well if you're chasing fixtures. And I think that Villa defenders have improved as well, and statistically they have looked pretty good, particularly from an attacking perspective, and their next 2 fixtures are pretty good as well, so I'll be touching on one of them a little bit later. But yeah, let's have a look, mate, at midfield upgrades, because there are a few different options and and a few faces on here we don't normally see, which is interesting. Okay. But obviously we've got Bruno and Mbeumo, we touched on earlier. They look really good, but the guy at the front, I don't think it's someone we've sort of ever had up on this screen, but his performance against Liverpool was absolutely outstanding. I thought he was, he was so, he had a mixture of, Grealish when he was at Villa at his best, St. Maximin when he was at Newcastle, kind of Mane when he was at Southampton and just joined Liverpool. That complete mixture of guile, speed, footwork. He just absolutely danced around Bradley and Canate and everyone else who tried to stop him. He was sensational. Now, I suppose there's a question to say, was it a kind of one-off game, which a lot of those players just mentioned had, or was it, or is this a new coming of Doku? What are your thoughts, mate?
Wow. I mean, I like him. Yeah, he's 6.4 million. He's due a rise. He almost went up last night, so you might have to go early on him if you want to if you have exact money or something. But yeah, I think he's a really nice prospect for the coming weeks. Again, I think you'll see him featuring heavily on free hit teams. We may get early team news for City in game week 13. And if you sort of know he's going to start, I think that would be enough impetus for people to transfer him in and take a risk on him. I may get him myself this week. He's certainly one of the options I've got in midfield if I make the Gabriel downgrade. And I really like him as an option. The problem is obviously his minutes. His minutes haven't been that great. He doesn't always have man of the match performances, and he's the sort of player where Pep will sing his praises and then leave him out.
As he likes to do, doesn't he? And he's also not going to be playing against that Liverpool defence every week, as I touched on earlier. All that space.
Yeah, he scored twice for Belgium.
Yeah.
They thrashed, I think it was Armenia, in the week, and just had a huge win, and Doku got a couple of goals. So clearly his confidence and his form is sky high. So I really like him as a short-term option, as long as you have a good 12th man, or you don't mind, accept you're going to get some reduced minutes and some cameos from him, because that's what you will get in the coming period. It's almost like the risk reward type pick, isn't he, for the upcoming period? That's what you feel. What have you got him down as expected minutes on the hub?
Take a look.
Can you
now,
look at that easily?
I'll look at that now. If you do want to have a quick chat about maybe the other two in the meantime.
Yeah, because I'll talk about the other two. I mean, the other one's on here. I mean, a player I've been eyeing for a few weeks now, but I've actually been valuing saving the transfer a little bit more, was Minte of Brighton. He's been in and around the picks for some weeks now. He still hasn't risen in price. I think he will go up this week, 6 million. I think it's still a really good pick. Brighton's fixtures are excellent in the next 3 or 4 games, and I think he's due some big returns. So Minte, a nice option, particularly if you have a fifth mid you want to get rid of, like a Reinders, that kind of thing. Nice move with the extra 500,000 you get from the Gabriel sale. Really like that as a combination. And if you can stretch to it, I can't quite stretch to it. Slightly more expensive at 6.6 is Dominic Szoboszlai. I think you've got safe minutes there for Liverpool. Some great upside from an attacking perspective. Obviously, he's just had a big, huge emotional whammy with losing to Ireland in the World Cup, but actually still a quality player. 6.6 mil, and I think it's difficult to pick the right Liverpool attacker. Salah's a price issue. Szoboszlai's got 4 yellow cards, slight downside there, so you're probably looking at a suspension before Christmas there. And it's tough. Gakpo, is he going to start? It's not easy to get your 3 Liverpool sorted out, or even 2 Liverpool if you're not going with Salah. So yeah, it's tough. So I like Szoboszlai, I think, out of all of them, playing in the number 10 most weeks, although can sometimes revert to right back if Slot wants to change the formation. What do you think of Szoboszlai? Do you like him?
I do. He's a kind of player I would never normally go for in FPL. It has, it's been by detriment over the years. Remember the year when Yaya Toure and Ramsey just kept on doing it, and he kind of strikes in that sort of box to box. He's very creative. I know Liverpool fans absolutely love him. 90-minute man, can almost play anywhere on the pitch, and he's looking very dangerous. He arrives late in the box a lot, and he gets a lot of chances, and he does return. So I think if I'm looking at him compared to other Liverpool mids, and their price in particular, obviously, Salah is 14.2. He'll probably score more points than Szoboszlai, right? But it's what you do with the other 7.6 million,
the other 8 million,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same with Wirtz. No goals, no assists. I mean, this period could be good for him, right? And then you've got, as you say, Gakpo, Ekitike, and Isak. You just never really know who's going to play. You can't trust him. Isak's, his kind of injury state is up and down all the time, which gives Ekitike a start. Then he's dropped, then a start again. Gakpo didn't start the last Champions League game or league game either, so you're just not 100% sure. So I think with all that in mind, having someone who is going to play in that number 10, who is a fantastic 90-minute player with these fixtures, is really good. I don't expect him to rip it up, and score hat tricks or braces, but if you can get even a goal out of him, and some bonus points, maybe DEFCON, you could be on for 10, 11 points. So he's definitely in my thoughts ahead of this week.
Yeah, good. Good.
Yeah.
What do you think on the Mbeumo Fernandes thing? Have you got either of them?
I've got Mbeumo for price. I think they're both okay. I think they'll both do all right. I think Bruno is slightly expensive for what he gives personally. I know he gets DEFCON, I know he gets penalties, and he gets the odd assist and stuff. Fixtures are okay.
Quite a bit of love for doubling up in the hub chat.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of that personally, and it's given the other options who we're talking about, right? There's so many other players. Semenyo is obviously not on here because he's probably already. You've got the Chelsea assets. I picked out Neto last week, in Fergie's Punt, and he returned. I think Chelsea look good. Fixtures are still good. Burnley this week. You got Enzo. You got all these players. So, Soboslai we mentioned, Minte, Saka. You got all these players. So I just can't see why you'd want 2/5, 40% of your midfield going on. And it's probably still fair to say a hit and miss United, who have got Everton this week, and Everton are good defensively. I think one is fine, and I think from game week 14, maybe a double up at the moment. I can't remember who the next two fixtures are, but they're not easy. They're
Cunha, we haven't mentioned Cunha, and he almost made the picks because of the Sesko injury. So that probably opens the door for him to maybe start in the 9. I mean, it's not guaranteed he'll do that, but you probably will see more minutes from Cunha now, and possibly a positional change. So United assets look good. They're just that perseverance with the Amarim formation seems to be just turning the corner a bit, and he may know what he's talking about after all. So let's see how they go. But I don't think it's mandatory to have to double up.
I think home to Everton and away to Palace are two difficult games down 12 or 13. Yeah. Home to West Ham. Way to Wolves 14 and 15. I think that's the time. Just monitor for 2 weeks, and then maybe strike personally. Good stuff, Rich. Just a quick look at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. Haaland top 33, Salah 27, Saka 25, Bruno 23, Mateta 23, and Bumo 22. Ahmad, he's still really high up on but he's returning in most weeks as well. He's getting these, he's getting the goals and assists. Cunha is here as well. So there's 4 United players, but I think probably if I was to adjust this range, the majority of those points are probably in the latter 2 rather than the front 2 personally. Semenyo, Soboslai we just mentioned is in there. Isak, Foden, Rice, Trossard, and a few Arsenal players there as well. But United are pretty high up. But Saka, Mateta, Semenyo, Soboslai. I think that's going to be my midfield. After this game week, we'll take a look at our teams. Teams in a bit. Best wildcard team for game week 12 has got double United midfield in. We'll say that.
Yeah, it's tempting, isn't it? It's tempting. Yeah,
it's got Petrovic in goal with Dubravka, which is sensible. It goes Virgil, Senesi, Anderson. Loves the DEFCONs. Goodness me. Richards and Estev. That is a pretty rock solid defense. Hard to argue with that.
Team, that.
Saka, Bruno, and Mbuemo, Soboslai, and it's got Anderson there to 5.3. Can't really see that myself. Then a front 3 of Haaland, Mateta, and Thiago. So pretty.
I like that.
Pretty solid, I think.
I like that team. Yeah, it looks really good. I think if you've got a team that looks like, our friend from Flag FC earlier in the pod, absolutely. I think, changing to this would be a good use of a wild card, 100%. Wouldn't it? I mean, you've got Thiago with Burnley next week. The fixtures around it are a little bit tough, but then beyond, I think game week 15 onwards, Brentford's fixtures look really good. Nice front 3 there. You're really banking on United doing well over the upcoming period. If they don't, you're probably not going to do that well either. Severe lack of Arsenal cover in this wildcard. It's gambling against Arsenal defence in the long term. So I'd probably want at least one Arsenal defender in there, because you're probably going to hold this team for 20 weeks before you wildcard again, maybe up to 20 weeks.
Show.
And you've got to look past the next 3 and think, do I have to bring in Arsenal defenders with my AFCON transfers? And you don't really want to have to do that. You want to just get one in there, I think, and maybe lose a Senesi or something and make it work somehow. But I think I'd have one Arsenal defender in there, and I probably would still make the choice over one United over another. I just don't quite have the confidence to have to.
I wonder, because Semenyo is flagged and this week his minutes are predicted to be reduced because he's flagged. I think if he was at full strength, maybe, I wonder if he would squeeze in ahead of one of them potentially. It looks like he's getting ahead of Mbeumo. Looks like Bruno's predicted points are slightly higher than Mbeumo, but yeah, it's just, I think it's
good team though. It's one of the ones I've liked more than some of the other AI ones. I think it's good. What does a free hit look like? Any different?
Team? It does indeed. It really fancies Liverpool and Man United. So Leno in goals and Anderson for Fulham. They're home to Sunderland this week. Virgil and Canate at the back and Szoboszlai in midfield. They're obviously home to Forest this week. Saka home to Spurs. And then Bruno and Mbeumo and Ahmad triple up in midfield.
Oh my God.
For the free hit home to it. It really fancies them against Everton. And then Haaland and Mateta up front. So that's the free hit for this week. Triple up on Liverpool. Triple up on Man United. So yeah, interesting stuff. Fergie is a punt for game week 12. And I've gone for a bit of a strange pick this week. I was having a look. I like to just have a look at the Opta stats. When nothing jumps out for me from the fixtures, I like to have a look at the stats. And there was a player who jumped out at me. This player in the last 4 game weeks has had the most shots and the joint most shots on target over the last few game weeks. This team's defence has improved. They were awful start of the season, probably worst team in the league. They've improved massively now. So Aston Villa have improved. They've got a couple of nice fixtures now on the bounce as well. Screen's incredibly small, but they're away to Leeds and home to Wolves in the next 2. So I think, again, if you're wildcarding, looking at a certain sort of price point, and maybe for a shortish term pick. But Matty Cash has come onto my radar. He scored 2 goals this season. He had 11 shots, 5 on target. 3 of those have come in the last 4 game weeks. 8 key passes as well. And like I say, these next 2 fixtures in particular, away to Leeds, home to Wolves. I think Matty Cash could have a good couple of weeks. Luca Dean on the other side is good as well, but Cash is outperforming him statistically. The ultimate FPL troll, the old 1-pointer, clean sheet bust and booked Luca Dean. But I do like look at Matty Cash, and I think he could have a profitable week or 2.
Nice pick. I think you'll see him on a lot of free hits next week when they're home to Wolves. I think probably you'll really like that. And he's nice and cheap, isn't he? 4.6. So yeah, good punt, mate.
I like him.
Like it.
Rich against the machine for game week 12. After your success we both returned last week, Rich. I had Neto for Chelsea. You had Marino for Arsenal. So what's your thought?
Got an assist, and I'm applying the same logic this week again. Scouring the hub expected points for someone that I don't need to have a huge return in order to beat the machine. So I've gone quite a long way down the expected points this week for this pick. This is somebody that was featured in a lot of teams, including my own at the beginning of the season.
I captained him, mate.
Who has completely flopped. I think you captained in 1 week. Such was the confidence. Probably one of the most expensive players ever to be bought in the Premier League. And here we are with a massive 2.8 expected points from this game week. He did, however, have an absolute blinder for Germany in midweek, contributing. I think it was 4 or 5-0. They beat Slovenia, and a couple of assists there. Played really well. Just keeps saving his performances for internationals. It is Florian Wirtz, so I am expecting him to, hopefully get a start against Forest. Even if he doesn't, he only needs to get an assist to get me a win here. And I've clawed it back to 6-3. I'm still 6-3 down, but if I can get it up to 6-4, I'm hopefully getting up towards parity. So Florian Wirtz as a very quick Rich against the machine this week. I still wouldn't buy him though.
I probably wouldn't, but sometimes you just have to swing against it, right? And I really am a believer. Like they spent a lot of money on him. He's a fantastic player. We know he hasn't quite clicked yet. We know that. I've no doubt he will go on in the coming 2 or 3 seasons to be one of Liverpool's best players, right? There'll be a changing of the guard from Salah. If you remember, the reason we were so high on Wirtz, I captained him in game week 1, right? But the reason was in the Champions League against Palace, was it Palace? He was phenomenal. He was like his touch, his weight of pass, his movement, his turn. He was brilliant.
Oh, you mean the Community Shield?
In the Community Shield. But he was brilliant. I think he was man of the match. And it just haven't clicked. But it will at some point. And when he does, the early adopters are going to win who'll profit because everyone will get him because he's so cheap. So I like it,
Absolutely.
mate. I do like.
Yeah.
You have had comment off offside footy saying Vert's pick ever, but other than
Yes.
that, I think it's all right, mate. Let's have a look at the captain for this week. Interesting one. You touched earlier on Saka, maybe. So Haaland is predicted 7.4, Salah 7, Saka 6.6, Mateta 6.1, and then Bruno and Buemo 6.1 and 5.8 each. What are your thoughts on captaincy this week?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a week to swing against it. I think Haaland in home games is just a no-brainer. I mean, Haaland, if he hadn't missed that penalty in the last game, he'd have had another 13-pointer, wouldn't he? And we'd be just be just locked in and not even talking about this. But yeah, he's still got another couple of goals against Italy. Sent Italy into the playoffs. In Norway cruised through to the World Cup. So we've got Erling at the World Cup next summer. He just looks unstoppable at the moment. He's looking at a brace or a minimum of one goal every game he plays. Why would you take it on? I mean, you're taking it on because you're unhappy with your rank and you want something done now, and you're risking it, and you're just risking getting buried if you take it on, more than if you don't. So I just think you just stay with it, don't you? I mean, are you going to stay with it? I know it's away to
I
Newcastle,
am,
but
and I just think because there's no other option. If you're going on Salah, it's just a leap of faith. It's nothing more than that. It's just looking at his legacy over the years of how brilliant he's been, but he's just not doing it. I expect Salah to score, right? And maybe if you have got Salah and Haaland, I would be tempted to go Salah, but as you mentioned earlier, over the next 4 weeks, you're going to captain Haaland a minimum of 2 or 3 of the next 4 anyway. I wouldn't be bringing in Salah to captain him because you're going to probably take hits, go without Saka or whatever else. But
yeah,
I think you can swing against him. I would, if Semenyo is confirmed as fit as an example, home to West Ham, I think that could be worth a punt, for example. Saka home to Spurs, I'm not sure how that game is going to pan out. It could be incredibly tight. Spurs have got a knack of turning up, especially away against the top sides, as they've done to Man City a few times, they've done to Arsenal a few times. But there's no other sort of real outstanding option. United home to Everton. If United were home to, home to Forest or home to Wolves, maybe there is, but there doesn't seem to be any other sort of really outstanding fixture, which is another reason why I'd go for Haaland. He just looks a beast. Every time I look at my phone and there's football on, I look at my phone, notification, Haaland scored. Just every time he's just a beast. So
I think it's a, maybe in away games your expectations should be one return and some bonus points or something rather than a massive score. But because strikers score less points from goals and lack of clean sheet points and all that. So I get that argument, but there isn't a outstanding midfield alternative. And I just think that maybe Gabriel, one of as I said earlier, one of Saka's routes to points is connecting with Gabriel at corners. That's kind of diminished a little bit. There'll be another central defender up there, but will he get on it like Gabby does? I don't think so. So yeah, I think if I was tempted to do any other of my players, I might go Bruno or Saka, but it's risky, so I'll stick with Haaland.
I would say Semenyo, Saka, maybe Mateta away to Wolves as well is a good fixture. But yeah. We've got your team up now, Rich. Do you want to talk us through your thoughts and plans for the coming game week?
Yeah, I'm going to most likely do Gabriel to Van Dijk. I'm pretty much made my mind up for that. And I have to decide whether to spend my secondary free transfer or roll it. I think I've got a bit of an issue with my team. There's a chance Krupi might play against West Ham because I think Cliver is also injured, but I'd probably need Semenyo to be out as well, and both of them to be out for Krupi to get a start or feel confident about a Krupi start. Because I sort of did the Krupi move to get Saka in, it's just left me a little bit weak on the bench because Reinders can't be relied on for minutes. So I'll probably move Reinders up to Doku, which I've got the money to do. So I can go Gabriel to Van Dijk and Reinders to Doku. And then I've got Doku on the other side of the potential free hit next week. Although probably if you end up with Virgil and Doku in there, you're then looking at that and thinking, why would you wildcard that team in game week 13? It's too good,
It
isn't
is.
it?
It is. Yeah. I know.
So it like just becomes,
I'd
another
see them
kick
as
it down the road.
exactly. I'd see them as mutually exclusive, Rich. I
Mm,
think it can be very easy to overly plan your chips weeks in advance. I would just play what's in
yeah,
front of you, and then there
yeah,
will be a point where you're wild card where you're just like, oh my god, now it's obvious.
yeah,
It's obvious instead of forcing it.
yes,
Um,
yeah. Well, you remember at the beginning of the season, when a lot of content creators, and probably including you and me, came out and said, "I will be wildcarding in game week 13." The Ben Crellins, the Prazes,
yeah,
the people who we rely on for great content. They're saying their wildcard. None of them have got their
no,
wildcard left.
exactly.
They've used them all.
Exactly.
I'm one of the few who's managed to get to that point of being able to use it in 13, and now I'm doubting whether or
Yeah,
not I want to do it.
agree, mate.
So I think I'll just kick it down the road. I mean, I'll just keep
You're
kicking it down
you're
the
going to be
road,
in an
and then
incredible
when it looks
position in a
bad,
few
do
weeks,
it.
mate. In a month's
Yeah,
time, when there's flags everywhere and we don't know who's playing,
yeah,
people are getting rested, rotated.
yeah,
You're just going to be able to
yeah,
go strike
yeah.
down.
Exactly. If I don't go Doku because of the minutes, I'll go Minte. So it'll be Doku and
Doku's
Minte.
last two games he's played 74 and 75 minutes, but before that
Yeah,
his last three were under 60, so we've got him at average of 65 minutes. But
65. Okay.
again, that's pass. You've got to think about forward facing. I think. Quickly at my team, I'm really happy with my team. I have got three flags. Gabriel Semenyo. I've got Enzo flagged. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. I think I'm going to be doing the same. Gabriel to Van Dijk. I think it's a no-brainer. I then have to wait for the presses because I could do Enzo to Soboslai is a move I could do, and which I'd like to do actually, and then I would have a pretty good team, I think. But I'm going to wait for the end. If Enzo, if he's going to play, if he comes out manager and says, Enzo's back, he's fine, I'll probably leave Soboslai till next week. Same with Semenyo. Hopefully he'll be fine. But I've got a good team. We've got Mbeumo in place, got Saka in place, got Timber in place. Got my Bournemouth keeper in place for this coming run as well because they haven't had a clean sheet since Wildcard. So I'm probably just leaving it. I've got weak bench, Rodon, Mukiele, Mark Gui, but hopefully won't need them. 2 free transfers, and that is me for the coming week. And that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. Those who watch it back and those listening on the podcast versions, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. Thank you, Rich. Where can people get hold of you?
I'm at Rich Clarke, FPL on X.
Good stuff. So this podcast and video will be in the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. Leave us 5 stars and a comment. We will be back next week, looking ahead to Game Week 13. In the meantime,
Big week.
Have a great Game Week 12, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.